Well, and Dumbledore says that they're going to send a letter to the Dursleys, and I don't see how that would be a threat to Harry at all. Like, go ahead. They don't care. In fact, they'd probably be happy if that happened.
If they read it.
Right. And that is how Harry ends up taking it. Snape tries to argue for the two of them to get expelled, and Dumbledore's like, nah, man, it's not our choice. Let's go eat some food, okay? And they both go up to the feast and leave McGee to deal with the punishment. And Harry's totally cool with that. He's like, the Dursleys get a letter, and I have to deal with McGee. That's totally not a big deal.
And I got another ride in the flying car.
Right.
So let's call it good.
Right. Ron wants to go to the feast because he wants to figure out where his little sister went. And so McGee's like, she's in Gryffindor, okay? Let's just cut to the chase. You missed the sorting. You're not going up to the feast. She got in Gryffindor. And she starts to try and take points from them, and Harry, being the smart motherfucker he is like, whoa, wait, hold on. This happened before term started, right? So you really shouldn't take points from Gryffindor, right? Gryffindor didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't acting for Gryffindor when I did that. And she's, it says that she didn't really smile, but she kind of smiled.
Her lips became a little less thin.
Yes, that is what it said. And McGee is real big with competition. She does not like to lose. So she was like, thank you for giving me an excuse.
At a fucking boy.
Right. Like she wanted to pat him on the back, but she couldn't.
For being smart enough for putting up a legit argument.
Right. She says you both get detention. And Harry's like, I can do detention. I can do letter to the Dursleys. It's all good. And then McGee makes some sandwiches appear, and they eat.
I think the sandwiches that Harry and Ron get are just regular plain sandwiches as a punishment because they're not able to go to the feast.
It is strange because there's 2 mentions in this chapter about food being conjured and just continually being conjured. And I don't know the rules about just making food appear. It's interesting that she can just make them a never-ending plate of food.
And again, is it whatever they make or whatever the boys want?
I mean, I don't think the boys get a say. Like Nate said, I think it's probably just ham and cheese, no mayo.
No mayo.
That's like torture to me. You have to have some fucking mayo.
No mayo. It's a punishment sandwich.
Right. It's a dry-ass punishment sandwich.
It's a shame sandwich.
Sticks to the top of your mouth and shit, and you don't have anything to wash it down.
All peanut butter, no jelly.
But she does tell them, go straight to your dorm when you're done. I'm going back to the feast. And the kids sit there, they eat their fill of the sandwiches, and they have a little conversation about how, can you believe our fucking luck? No muggles ever saw the twins when they were riding around, which makes us feel like they did that more than once, too.
We'll see, and I think that's a callback to earlier in this episode. Ron wanted to drive the car. He's obviously seen the twins do it, and seen them not get caught by the muggles, so he's been chomping at the bit to get his hands on this thing.
And they do ask again, why couldn't we get through the barrier?
It just magically closed.
Yeah. It's obviously not a normal thing, though. They know it wasn't their fault that it closed.
Quick question going back. What happens if a muggle were to just lean up against the barrier and fall through?
I kind of think it has a lot to do with intent. Like
the way the flu powder works?
Yeah, like you have to
be clear with what you want.
Right, like you have to be running at the wall with the intention of going through it for that magic to work. I might be wrong, but that's just kind of the way I pictured it.
No, I think you're absolutely right, because...
James has a different theory.
No, my thought was actually along the lines of Hermione, because we got a glimpse at her parents being in Diagon Alley with her. So I'm guessing that they probably have to go through platform 9 3/4 with her, just like Mr. and Mrs. Weasley do, to like see her on the train. Maybe not every year, but like at least her first year. I'm sure that they weren't like, okay, Muggle daughter, walk through the wall. We're totally going to believe that that's going to work for you. And we're going to stand over here and hope that you got on your train. No, I'm sure that they went through it with her.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
So That's what I think. Ron tells Harry that he thinks that McGee didn't want the boys showing off, and that's why she didn't let them back to the feast. It wasn't anything about anything other than she just didn't want everybody else thinking it was cool to show up in a flying fucking car. Like everyone has one in their driveway. And that plate, like we said, keeps refilling itself, and then eventually, once they're full, they walk up through the empty school to the portrait, and that's when they realize they don't have the password.
Why does it change every year?
Well, it changes throughout the year so that nobody else can get into your dormitory.
Oh.
Hermione shows up and tells them rumors have been flying the fuck around, and she's heard that they drove a fucking car to school, and they got expelled, and Ron is like, skip the lectures, okay? We've had enough of them tonight. What's the password? I listened to this on Audible. Did we all?
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you all hear Muddlebird? I guess it doesn't matter that much. I tried to listen to it like 2 or 3 times to try and hear exactly what it was, because I don't know, I thought it was interesting, and I could not figure out if she was saying Muddlebird or something else. But once Hermione says it, the portrait automatically opens, and all they can hear is clapping from inside.
Yay!
And they're pulled inside and fawned all over. Fred and George ask why they couldn't come in the car too, and Lee Jordan is like, this is gonna go down in history, and they can see Percy is fucking pissed across the room, but he can't get through the crowd of people. They make their way up to their room, which, by the way, is the same room as last year, but it says second years. This has always been something interesting to me, because they make it sound like they walk up this spiral staircase to the top, and that's their room. But they stay in their same dorm, apparently, throughout the years. And there's gotta be 7 years worth of Gryffindors in that tower.
Yeah, well, they probably have different sections where all the beds go. And so they're all in the same dormitory, but they have different corridors that each of the beds go into, or at least different rooms.
I think that's what it is. I think that there's a different room off of the staircases. And I guess I always thought that there was one staircase that led to one room. Or in my head when I was younger, when I first read it, that's what I thought. And when I got to this book is when I realized that there had to have been a staircase that led to 7 different rooms. But it's weird because it doesn't change per year. So it's not like on your 7th year you're in the highest one. It just depends on where your class falls. Do you know what I mean? Like, whenever the 7th year Gryffindors age out, that's the room that the first year Gryffindors end up in. And that's going to be their room for the next 7 years. And then that cycles. Once inside, Ron smiles and makes a comment about how he knows that shouldn't have felt good. And once the other boys come in and continue to congratulate them on their entrance to school, Harry allows himself to smile too. And that's kind of the end of the chapter.
Like, yeah, we broke the rules, but it was pretty fucking badass.
Yeah, I mean, that's how they imagined touching down to triumph. And even though they had to get through some bullshit, that's kind of what ended up happening, at least as far as the school kids are concerned.
Right, they got their moment.
Yeah.
Legends.
As if they weren't already legends. But that's the end of the chapter, guys. I'm glad we made it all the way through that one. But it was a good one. If you guys are interested in joining the conversation, we would absolutely love to have you. Please, please, please come onto our Facebook page, which you can find at Podcast ATT, or all the things on Facebook. You can find us over on Instagram at Podcast ATT as well, or on Twitter at Podcast_ATT. We would love to hear from some of you guys.
And if you guys want to help us grow this podcast, you can go on to patreon.com/podcastatt, and you can make a pledge that will help us out. Also, if you guys wanted to go on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, you leave us a review, and that helps us out. And it also makes this show more searchable to people who might want to find a show like this one.
We would love to hear from any of you doing any of those things. So please, please reach out if you are interested in doing so. Also, if you just want to send us an email, about something we did wrong or super right, you can totally send us an email at podcastatt@gmail.com. And we will be sure to see you here next week, guys.
Thanks for listening.
That's right. We'll see you guys real soon.
Bye.